Hey Tony, do you remember when Rogers promised that they would spend $6.5 billion in Calgary, lower wireless prices, and create 3,000 new jobs after acquiring Shaw? Funny, because it sounds like instead of adding jobs, you're removing them, just like analysts said you would. If you aren't familiar with the problems of the Canadian technology sector, don't worry, I'm hoping to cover that in a future video. But the TLDR is, Rogers is a Canadian telecommunications provider who recently bought Shaw, another telecommunications provider. And despite what big companies like to say, surprise, surprise, less competitors means less competition. Who would have thought? Regardless of the Canadian telecommunications landscape, Rogers serves as a nice micro introduction to my frustrations with corporate layoffs. Amazon, Microsoft, SAP, PepsiCo, Stripe, Lyft, Google, which I know is Alphabet, but no one calls them that. Meta, Snap, Twitter, now X, and a shopping list of other companies have all announced layoffs over the past year or more, and even more are very likely underway. I feel like everyone is announcing layoffs right now. The first thing I want to say is how much I feel for the people who lost their jobs during a layoff. I cannot imagine waking up one day only to find out what you thought was a stable financial future is now completely disrupted. And in this video, I want to explain to you why I define corporate layoffs as a pathetic corporate maneuver for profitable companies to ruin people's lives. I should be clear that I believe, generally speaking, layoffs are just unethical. Legal, but unethical. The sole exception is if layoffs can help prevent a company from going completely bankrupt. If a company can stay operational by laying off 90% of its workforce, that's terrible, but it's better that there still be some jobs than no jobs. I can also maybe see justification for limiting unprofitable divisions, like how Amazon made cuts to their Alexa division. I mean, I don't know about you, but I barely trust Siri to turn on my lights, so I'm certainly not trusting Alexa to order anything with my credit card. What angers me though, is when profitable companies lay off people solely to hopefully appeal to investors and Wall Street. Look, I'm an investor too. You know that I max out my TFSA trading account every year, but I'm an investor second to being an employee. I'd rather have my job than a slightly boosted share price. And let's not kid ourselves either. Most companies are only laying people off because either A, in an attempt to please Wall Street and get a boost in their share price, or B, because everyone else is doing it and they're fearful that their analysts are missing something that the rest of the market sees, resulting in panic layoffs. But here's the kicker. When you randomly lay employees off, these people presumably did something important. There aren't suddenly more hours in the day for other people to just do their work. This means that often the roles that are laid off need to be refilled, sometimes as soon as months after the layoffs happen to address internal labor demands. Salespeople may be easy to lay off, but if they're the revenue driver for your organization, how long can you go until you need them again? Then, of course, there's the actual cost of laying people off. Now, the companies have to make essentially a massive upfront investment in the hopes of saving money down the road on reduced salaries and benefits. But when you lay people off, you have to typically pay several months of severance, especially for tenured employees. Plus, there's the cost of lawyers and benefits and HR, and that's not including the soft costs. I mean, Alphabet paid $2 billion bloody dollars on one round of severance packages, and Microsoft overpaid some 1,400 laid off employee severances, and they required these employees to pay back that overpayment until the media got wind of the story and Microsoft opted that they didn't need the cash. Poor Satya. Harvard Business Review found that the soft costs of layoffs very likely outweigh the short-term cost benefits. And boy, do I think short-term is still too generous of a word. Companies who lay off employees suffer from a drop in productivity, both from the lack of personnel and the drop of morale. There's a cost to the company's brand reputation through bad publicity. The fact it's harder to get new talent since people might be afraid of their future job security. The fact that when you do hire people, you have to pay to recruit and train them, sometimes even pay them more in salaries than the previous people you just laid off. There's also lower innovation, higher voluntary turnover, a loss of knowledge, weaker engagement. Are you getting it? Surprise, surprise. People don't feel invested into companies that just fire talented, loyal workers. Who would have freaking guessed? Corporate culture is important. Something as simple as company swag, Christmas gifts, competitive wage increases, remote work, and benefits like fitness and education reimbursements go a long way in keeping people loyal, dedicated, and productive. That's all ignoring the most disgusting move, which is laying people off in December, right before the holidays. But what monsters would do that? Except for, oh, I don't know, Ernst & Young, Hasbro, State Street, Zulily, Spotify, I don't like them anyway, Twilio, Broadcom, Citigroup, Amazon, and Chewy. Thanks, Forbes, for that great list. Finally, what angers me is how the people who most often are making these decisions are insulated from them. They aren't getting laid off, and no matter how much an executive may feel bad for having to make this decision to lay people off, or making a video crying because they overhired during COVID, or some shit, it's still their fault. Why aren't they paying the price for their bad decision? Thank you so much for watching another one of my videos. I've only really been making YouTube videos for about a month now. It's something I've always wanted to do, but between work and school, I've just never really had the time. So after completing my MBA, I decided to make 2024 my year of content creation. If you're unfamiliar with the idea of a yearly theme, I've left a link to the Cortex podcast where hosts CGP Grey and Mike Hurley do an annual show on the topic. If you also hate layoffs like I do, leave a comment. And if you like them, then what the heck are you even doing here? Comment, subscribe, ring the bell icon, do all the things that helps this channel grow, and I'll see you next week. Bye, friends.